The 82nd Airborne Division is an airborne infantry division of the United States Army specializing in parachute assault operations into denied areas with a U.S. Department of Defense requirement to respond to crisis contingencies anywhere in the world within 18 hours. The 82nd was first constituted during World War I in 1917 as an infantry division. It was organized and formally activated August of that year. The 82nd was redesignated in 1942 during World War II and became the first airborne division in the history of the U.S. Army, with the formal redesignation as the 82nd Airborne Division. The Army's 82nd Airborne Division is now based out of Fort Liberty, formerly Fort Bragg, and is an elite division specializing in joint forcible entry operations. It would be reasonable to assume that soldiers of the 82nd Airborne Division are going to be as well trained as anyone in the U.S. Army is going to be. Internally, the 82nd conducts annual reports on the conduct of their different training operations, to include marksmanship. Enduring range is the reporting done for the 82nd's marksmanship efforts. Let's take a look at how good the 82nd Airborne is in Army marksmanship.
These boxes is 1 minute. If you're using the CCO, your adjustments are half minute. 1 click of your elevation is equal to approximately 1.75 minutes of angle, so 2 minutes of angle, since we really can't do anything other than 1 minute adjustment.
Sergeant Miller, featured here, was the division's small arms master gunner and prepared this report. The fiscal year 17 report is especially poignant because this was the last report for enduring range conducted at the tail end of the last version of the Army's train fire, the version that was started in the very late 1970s and continued until the training circulars changed it fiscal year 2016. So this would have been the result of almost a half century after this version of train fire had been implemented. This qualification is conducted with 40 targets, hits anywhere count full value. A minimum of 23 targets need to be hit to be considered a minimum passing result. The average score fired by the 82nd was 25.44. This 25.44 average hits, 23 being the bare minimum. The very best brigade tested scored 26.92. That was the best. 2 of the brigades had an average score less than the Army minimum. This qualification is broken into 3 separate tables. The first fired from prone supported, 20 total rounds. The overall average was 11 targets hit out of 20 shots fired for a 58.82% hit rate. Table 2 is prone unsupported, 10 total rounds, 10 targets. The 82nd Airborne averaged 4 targets hit out of 10 for a 48.18% hit rate. Finally, Table 3, shot from kneeling, 10 shots total for 10 targets, managed 6 targets out of 10 for a 65.79% hit rate. It's worth noting that this actually makes the course easier because you only shoot half the distance, maximum of 150 meters, and all of these exposures are granted additional time. Breaking the results down by rank, the average score below Army minimum is shown in red. An average score at the absolute Army minimum is shown in orange. Yellow indicates the proposed minimum of 70% and those personnel that made that. Green indicates managing to make the cutoff for 80% or sharpshooter. And blue indicates those personnel managing to get into the expert or 90% range or better. To further break this down by rank, the warrant officers had the highest overall average, followed by the field grade officers. The NCOs, that were NCOs not senior NCOs, had third highest. The first and second lieutenant average was next. That was better than the senior NCO average. Adding up the company grade officers, they were second place, and enlisted had the worst average of all. Comparing these results in fiscal year 2017 to the initial test conducted by the Army in 1979, the first group of soldiers, 576 total, tested on this version of train fire, managed an target average of 27.4 hits. Note that the very best brigade in the 2017 82nd Airborne didn't get to that average. Note, when this testing was first done in the late 1970s, the only weapon available to soldiers would have been the M16A1 with iron sights. That's it. Contrast that today with most soldiers, especially those in the 82nd, using optically sighted weapons, notably the M4 with the CCO. Also note, the 1979 version of this test did not have Table 3, which it turns out makes the course easier to shoot. If we extrapolate the results such that there is a better comparison, apples to apples, we'll use Table 2 twice to make it a 20-round course instead of using it only for 10 rounds. If we do it that way, their average hit rate of the 82nd drops from 63.6% to 57.37%, which is just under the minimum standard needed to pass. Thanks to Sergeant Miller for preparing this report. He is definitely a subject matter expert trying to make things better. If you found this video interesting, please like, subscribe, and share. If you'd like Army leadership to address this issue, share it with them as well. Thank you.